Morena tato. So welcome to everybody who's here this morning to this workshop around local water done well and preparing as we go through towards a decision-making process and looking at the Wellington regional model and decision around that. So this morning, in terms of our agenda, you'll hear from the regional team, and so Dougal List will present the presentation around the model of that, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of Dougal and explore that model to get a better understanding of that for yourself to assist as part of your decision making. Then we'll have a short adjournment for some morning tea, because it's always nice to have a little bit of food and some water in the system, or some tea.
Yes.
That was very...
Unfortunately, you'll have to get your own, but you're welcome to take part. And then we'll hear from the provincial team. So this is the team that's worked on the Y plus T, and so Robin Wells, who's the project lead for that, will present on that. And again, you'll have the ability to ask questions of Robin and explore that as much as you want to build on your understanding of that model to assist in your decision making. And then also we've got three representatives from the Department of Internal Affairs with us today. So Jaron Shaw, Phil Iles, and Joseph Lundberg. So welcome to you guys. And so they will be here to ask any questions from the department's point of view, and again to help in building your understanding of the process and how we work through this and the decisions that need to be made. Also, just to note that in terms of the regional report, so there is a couple of other pieces of information still to come in that space. We're working to get those two elected members to aid in the decision making, and we'll have those two as soon as possible. If for any reason they are not available in time to support decision making around the 30th, we may take a choice to delay slightly to enable that to be considered, but we'll wait and see what happens in terms of that information becoming available or not.
So what was that information called?
Two other pieces of information pertaining to the regional report.
The Wellington regional report.
The Wellington regional report.
Thank you.
And before we hand over to Dougal, I'd also just like to welcome members of the community who are in the public today. It's nice to have you here as part of this workshop as we understand more about what is clearly a very important decision that all councils around the country are facing. Councillor.
What happens, just explain if we ask questions of whichever group, and ask for them, I've already indicated one on 10-year graphs and charts versus 35-year ones. If we say, well, look, we want a 35-year set of graphs and charts rather than 10-year outlook, what happens if they can't supply that in a timely manner for us to make a partial decision on the 30th?
So we'll look at what is possible and not possible, Councillor. The reality, and you'll hear this with both the models, is that with the financials and the predictions, there are a lot of unknowns, and so some of that we may have to make a call on whether more information will be helpful or not helpful in the decision-making process, but we'll take that as it comes.
Or whether the information can be correct or not.
Indeed. And that's to the point that there are unknowns, and some of that won't become known or become more concrete until we get into detailed service delivery plans, and also some of it will be in the initial years of whatever entity is set up as well.
We don't have a crystal ball, do we?
Indeed.
Just one point of clarification. Questions will be after the presentation?
Yes, if we could let the presenters go through their presentations and then questions at the end, that would be preferable in terms of flow and enabling people to understand. Thank you. Cool. All right, with no further ado, we'll welcome Dougal to the front to present. Yeah, thank you. And just for clarity, because we are streaming people, just keep in mind the microphone and as close to it as you can whilst being comfortable.
Kia ora koutou, ko Dougal List, taku ingoa, and thank you very much for the opportunity to come over to Masterton and give you a bit of an overview of the work that we've been doing with your council and the other 9 councils in our region on local water done well. So I'm the Program Director working across the 10 councils and I've been working with David and the rest of the Advisory Oversight Group, as well as Kim and the CE Group and Robin and Messina through our officials group as well. And what we're going to do today is just talk you through where we've got to with a potential regional response to local water done well as one of the options before council. So in terms of what I intended to cover today, and I know some of you will have heard some of this before and perhaps it'll be news parts of it to others, going to talk through the legislative requirements which sit behind local water done well and the need to do a water services delivery plan, how the regional model was developed working with councils, key elements of the model including accountability and governance, the response to financial sustainability, benefits of the model and potential next steps if councils are minded to proceed with this option. So in terms of legislation, you'll be aware that the government is introducing a series of legislation to give effect to the government policy of local water done well. So we've had 2 bills pass into law so far. The second act is the most significant in terms of today's discussion. It's called the Local Government Water Services Preliminary Arrangements Act, rolls off the tongue. And what's really important about that is a requirement on local government to produce a water services delivery plan. So all local government must produce a water services delivery plan by 3rd of September next year. So by that point, council needs to have consulted on it, adopted it and submitted it to the Secretary of Local Government. So it's quite a short timeline. When you take out Christmas, we've got about 10 months left to produce one of those. The Water Services Delivery Plan essentially is made up of 2 components, information disclosure around the state of your assets and the network, the level of investment required and how you'll deliver that, how you'll show financial sustainability for water services. So regardless of whatever model option you choose to deliver your water services, you must deliver this water services plan. The second part of the plan deals with your delivery model. So Masterton currently has an in-house delivery model. Wellington Water exists as a delivery model. You must outline your proposed delivery model going forward as well as part of that. The Act outlines some simpler consultation and decision-making processes around a water services delivery plan, so it's not a normal local government Act process, it's a little bit simplified and streamlined. And the Act also starts to introduce the new arrangements for the Commerce Commission to become the economic regulator, some changes to the accountabilities of Taumata Arawai, and also some powers for the government to intervene if councils aren't able to make progress on the water services plan. This is the second part of the legislation. We're expecting a 3rd bill in December, which will have the enduring settings. And what's really important about that is it will outline a new type of council-owned organisation which is able to deliver water on behalf of councils. So we don't have all of the detail of that. We've got quite a lot of policy frameworks. We know pretty well what's going to be in it, but we don't have that Act as yet. So kind of the key message is you've got to do a plan. You've got a number of choices about how you do the plan and who your dance partners are and how you deliver water going forward, but you must do a plan. And it's quite a change to our operating context in that there will be increased economic regulation, oversight of how councils fund and deliver water services, and there are changes to the regulatory framework around Taumata Arawai. So no status quo. In response to this government policy direction, some really good leadership across the region recognised that change was coming and we needed to get ahead of the game. So, we've got a real history in the Wellington region of working across a range of issues together, from transport to waste to other issues. And so that leadership looked to get ahead of this process and say, okay, it's coming. If we're minded to work together as a region, what could we do? What's the best option as a region to respond to local water done well? So this is really the remit of my team, is to look at this from a region on behalf of the 10 councils. What's the best option if you are minded to work together? So we worked through a process which included the advisory oversight group, and as I say, working really closely with the CEs and officer group to step through the legislative requirements, identify what success looks like, what's important to you and your communities, what are the drivers for change, what's the scale of the investment that's needed going forward, what are the different delivery model options, how would we give effect to that through governance and accountability framework, how will we achieve financial sustainability, and what's required for implementation. Just going to the point Corin made a little bit earlier, this is not a water services plan. We're not at that point yet. It's not a price plan. We're not at that point yet. It's not an investment plan. We're trying to provide enough information that you're able to make that directional decision on who are your dance partners. There's a potential regional waka heading down this track of a regional delivery model. You've been in it to date to kind of help develop what that looks like. Do you want to remain in it? What are the choices that you face going forward? So going to the goal of the regional model, the advisory oversight group identified a goal of ensuring the delivery of safe, reliable, environmentally and financially sustainable water services so the region can be resilient, restore te mana o te wai, and enable new homes and well-beings of communities. So it's quite a broad goal, but I think it recognises and reflects not only the legislative requirements of the change before you, but also those broader outcomes that councils are after. So it was a collaborative, non-binding process working across the 10 councils, and as I say, we had a range of input from the advisory oversight group and the CEs and the officer group, supported by a joint team to test a range of options. So it's kind of considered a range of options as we've moved through this process. In terms of key requirements, one of the early things we worked with councils was to say, what's important to you? What's going to success look like? How do we set up a model which will reflect the needs of you and your stakeholders and partners? And so we looked at this from a range of different lenses. So from a consumer or public lens, the public wants public ownership of water services. That's been a real bottom line. It's reflected in government policy now as well. They want affordable water services and they want good local service delivery. Iwi Māori partners and Hapu Marae partners, conversation, want to ensure that te mana o te wai is respected and delivered on. They want meaningful influence in terms of the governance role of the new organisation, and they want to ensure treaty obligations are honoured. Councils are really looking for financial sustainability. All of our councils are under different pressures and stresses in relation to financial issues, and this new policy direction and some of the tools that government has put on the table provide some opportunities around that. You also want local influence so you can deliver your other local outcomes. Water is a really important outcome in terms of delivering growth and the well-being of our community. So you want to ensure that there's ongoing influence as well around that. And that will require clear accountabilities and good level of service for our communities also. The government set a number of minimum requirements for future organisations, including public ownership, but also financial sustainability is really a key test there for the government. And the future entity, if you're going to set this up right, if you're going to set it up, you need to set it up right. So it does need to be empowered. It has to have the ability to make decisions. It needs the financial ability to deliver on the issues that you've got across the region, and it needs the ability to meet regulatory requirements. So this set of key requirements kind of provided a north star of framing up a future entity model. In terms of the need for change, you'll be well aware of this, and look, the issues look slightly different in each district or council across our region. I was in Kapiti yesterday afternoon. They've got a much better water network than most other councils, but they've also got looming issues over the 20-year period as climate change happens, and they've got some big stormwater challenges. In Masterton, you've got some challenges around the state of your network, and across the Wairarapa, we've got some challenges of meeting growth demands. So the issues look a little bit different from everywhere, but everyone's got issues. So the conclusion of looking at the need for change in previous studies is transformational change really is needed. We really do need to step up our game in terms of how we respond to water, and you'll be more aware of the issues that you'll face as a council around your water infrastructure. In terms of the regional network, we did some work to assess, on average, what does the state